podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
This is a bit of an animal.
Hello and welcome back to A Bit of an Animal, the South African rugby-focused podcast on the Global Gainlines YouTube channel. We've got a full panel this week and a lot to talk about, so let's get going. We've got two new panelists this week, Thembikosi and Lisa B. Thembikosi, I'll shoot to you first. Introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us about your love of rugby.
Hi everyone, my name is Thembikosi, as he said. I'm originally from Tsanin, so I'm kind of like a Limpopo boy that came all the way to Gauteng. And yeah, I came here and I changed teams. So I was a full-out Bull supporter, but then I came to Gauteng, then I realized that, you know what, the Lions play a much more interesting rugby. And that's basically the life of my, that's the story of my tale.
Great. Glad to have you here on the Global Gainlines extended universe. Lisa B, same with you.
Hi everyone, Lisa B from the hinterlands of the Western Cape. Very proud Boland supporter, but also second team is VP and definitely love the Stormers. Didn't grow up with rugby, but was introduced to it later on and just got hooked. And yeah, rugby tannie van die Boland.
Great to have you. And Jean, our other friend from up north, how's it going?
Great last week, not so great this week. Sponsored by hashtag SAE Link Pumas. But we'll dive into that a bit later.
Great. All right. So our first topic this week will be a early preview of the Springbok 2 test matches against Australia. The first of which will be in Jean and Thembikosi's province of Gauteng. Australia versus South Africa, or South Africa versus Australia, always the home team first. So that kicks off at next week, Saturday, 5:10. Don't miss it. And then shortly afterwards, there will be South Africa versus Australia at Cape Town DHL Cape Town Stadium. So in the province of myself and Lisa B, I won't be attending because tickets are too rich for my blood. So let's look at the team sheet. There's our friend over there. And get a bit of insight into these two teams. Jean, I'll shoot to you first. What are you looking forward to for these two matches?
First of all, the test this weekend will be my first ever test that I'm viewing in person. So
Nice.
I'm gonna go view it live. I'll take some pics and share some videos. But yeah, I'm gonna be there. So I'm very amped to actually go to my first official Springboks test match. Yeah, looking forward to obviously the teams haven't been announced, but I'm looking forward to what Australia can bring. Obviously, we've seen what they can do on attack, and we've seen how they've gotten better in defense. I'm hoping for a classic matchup of the video you have going right now, where Faf touches a mustache and a guy dies. So I'm hoping for some drama. But yeah, I think seeing Australia and the shift in the way they've been on an upward trajectory over the Lions series, I think we could really be in for an interesting game, and I'm all for that. So yeah, I think the Australian attack, especially with Nick White at the back, is something to appreciate, especially over the last couple of weeks. And then yeah, it's just unfortunate for them. They've got a lot of big injuries. So yeah, I'm expecting the box to come out firing, especially up front. And I would be wary of kicking to their fullback, Tom Wright, who has a habit of just absolutely slicing through backlines, as he showed in the games against the Lions. he finds a line where everybody just he slips through, and next moment he pops off a pass, and you've got a score in the corner, or you've got a score under the poles. So I would say our kicking game definitely needs to be on point. But yeah, other than that, I'm amped. I think Australia is stepping up the physicality, so I think it's going to be a great test.
Nkosi, your thoughts on these two matches against Australia?
I'm actually looking forward to it because it kind of puts the, how can I say this, the Lions into context to see how actually good they were. And I'm kind of looking forward to see how Australia will kind of pitch up for the two matches. I'm kind of concerned that it seems like they kind of have like a 10 problem. I feel like if they had a better 10, they could probably do much more than that. But I'm looking forward to see the two centers. I think they were really doing the most the last three games during the Lions series. And I kind of want to see them get more game time and see how they can actually improve that. Oh, also, Jorgensen, outstanding, outstanding. I want to see him get more game time, along with McDermott. I kind of like Nick White to start, but hey, can we get McDermott in?
Yeah, Nick White, obviously famous for this video that we just played. I will say in his defense, I met him once in Cape Town CBD when the Brumbies were playing the Stormers. Can't remember what year that was. Nice guy, very, very polite. Also, I happened to also meet David Pocock and Robbie Coleman that week. And obviously, yeah, also great Oaks, especially David Pocock, very, very down to earth. Lisa B, your thoughts on these two games against Australia?
Yeah, excited like everyone else. For me, I actually had a look at the Aussie squad from last year when we played all our games over there. Um, or sorry, other way around, but the squad for that first game. And
Hmm.
what's interesting is that the the forwards are pretty much the same. And for me, I think it's going to come down to the Aussies really fronted up against the Lions in the last game especially, and they held their own. But I've got a question about whether they're going to be able to handle the Boks at the front. Um, as far as the back line goes, amazing. I really enjoyed the Lions series, especially because of that. And seeing also in the last game, because it's fresh in my memory, Peach was, or how do you say his surname? Peach or Peach?
Peach.
Yeah, I really enjoyed watching him, and yeah, just interesting also whether we are going to sort out our breakdown issues and mauling issues, and if the Aussies would be able to kind of employ the same things that Italy did and Georgia did for a while. I don't think they have the strength up front though, but I could be wrong.
Okay, good. Jean, do you have any insight into why Magic Man Harry Potter's not in the team? Is he also injured?
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's injured. I could be speaking under correction.
Mm.
Um, if I mean, if we're honest, for me, the best 10 they have is Lewis Liner,
Mm-hmm.
Liner,
Yeah.
is not in the team because he's on HIA protocol, so
Mm-hmm.
he's missing the first two tests. He'll be back for the second series.
Mm,
I believe Valentini is also out for the first test. He's in the squad, but he's out for the first test. He could join the second one. I'll say this because Lisa raised an interesting point, is whether or not they can front up. The Aussies are going to stay in the game. I'll put it at a one or two score difference in favor of the box, and it's going to be that close as long as Will Skelton remains on the field. Skelton and Etzebeth will be the two guys determining the go forward of the forward pack. So because he's their big ball carrier, he's their hard hitter, he's also their enforcer. So for every minute Will Skelton is on the field, it stays a close game. The moment Will Skelton goes off, as we saw in the first test against the Lions, it sort of starts sliding. But then again, we've now seen that the Aussie team is on the up. So, they've gotten confidence from having someone like Skelton around who's able to boss some guys and bully some guys. Will that work on the box? We don't know. I mean, Italy definitely shocked us in how ferocious they were at the breakdown. But yeah, I think for me personally, I don't necessarily want Australia to win these two tests, but I am hoping that they do get a shot at the Bledisloe Cup.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a competitive game. Um, I think Australia's got a bit more confidence considering they grew into the Lions series. They were shit in the first game,
Mm.
they were okay in the second game, and they were actually quite good in the third game. Tim Nkosi, are there any South African players in the forwards or the backs that you hope will sort of shine in these two games, which effectively are just the appetizer to the two away games that we play against New Zealand in 4 weeks' time? Temikosi, your thoughts?
I think the first person that I kind of want to see or see what they will do is on the Merva,
Hmm.
the one in the back left, the Sharks guy.
Yeah.
He seems like he's gonna have a good career. He seems like he took to the text arena in a very good way. So I'm kind of want to see how that will play out. Another player that I'm kind of looking at is among the forwards. It's kind of like that, Fenter and the other Pandamera, like the two new caps that we just got, that just recently got their caps. So I kind of want to see them in a serious game. I'm not saying that Georgia and Italy was not serious, but there was kind of nothing riding on it. So I think that with this one, you kind of need to see world class. And I also see that Australia brought in the likes of South Color, Tulo, Tulo, or however you pronounce his name. So which is interesting because I think now they have access to pick players from around the world, right?
Yep,
Because I see
that's
like
a
more and more.
excellent point there, Temikosi. Australia have now gotten rid of the Quito rule. They can pick anybody, anywhere, anytime, so long as they qualify for Australia. So anybody playing club rugby in Cape Town, calm down. They can't pick you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I
You
kind of
actually have
want to see how
Australian
that goes.
grandmother or something. Excellent point, Temikosi. Yes, Australia can pick any player. Lisa B,
Yeah.
last point for you.
Yeah, so very very interesting to hear from John, and I agree. I think it's also going to be interesting from that point to see the Australians have shown exactly that they can adapt and grow into it. For that reason, I think maybe they won't win the Joburg game, but Schmidt and his team, he's shown that he can, coach them and change the plan and kind of grow the plan quite quickly, actually, if you think about the whole Lions tour. So if they are going to win one, it'll be the Cape Town one. But still, I don't see them really pushing us up front. I hope Rasi and the crew have got all of that sorted out.
Okay, great. Yeah, if you want our thoughts on the result of the game, please uh, check our episode out next week. Like, subscribe, and yeah, click the notification bell. If you do not click the notification bell, I am going to assume that you support Australia. Swiftly on,
Boo.
that's actually a pun from a different podcast. If somebody can figure out what podcast that's from, it's mostly a basketball podcast. Tell us in the comments. Okay, so now we move on swiftly to the Women's Day announcement of the women's Springbok team, the 32 women team going to the World Cup, which we have a decent chance of actually making it out of the group. I'm really excited for this. I'll give it over to Lisa B for her thoughts initially on this topic.
Yeah, great that it came out. Women's Month and World Cup rugby, TRC, Currie Cup. It's like rugby Christmas down here. But yeah, equally excited. I've so enjoyed watching this team grow, I would say in the last 2 or 3 years, just from strength to strength. We have not won a single World Cup game, and this has to change this year. So we have a great team. I forgot I wanted to. So we have a great team with a whole bunch of caps. This is just about the most experienced team we can put out there. We've got some players that play overseas. And of course, luckily, our captain was injured for the last 2 games, but she is back ready to lead the team to greatness. And yeah, so I'm very glad she's back. Also, some other niggles of people who I was um, hoping that they would not that yeah.
We've actually had a very good last few games tests, starting with the end of last year. So we lost to Australia by not a huge margin at Athlone Stadium. Lisa B, were you there for that game?
Yeah, I was one of the
Okay,
best
how was
games
it?
I've ever been to. It was so nice. The crowd was awesome. Number one. Number two, really great to see yeah, just the whole women's rugby atmosphere growing and people coming out. Um, and we really did put in a good showing that first game. The the difference between the first game and the second game was our energy and our speed. We were very slow to the breakdown in the first game, which meant, and you can't do that with the Black Ferns. They are so quick and they will steal a ball if they have a half a chance. So that's, and also our communication. I don't know if people watch the Canada games, but that is one of the great things where we've improved with our communication, with sticking to our game plan. And yeah, it was a great game. What impressed me was the fans stayed and how you could just see on their faces, even though we lost the game, people wanted to stay and show their appreciation for both teams, because of course there are some All Black supporters down here in the Cape as well who came out for the Black Ferns. But yeah, it was a great experience.
I think I also need to go watch a game there because Athlone Stadium seems to be the home of the women's Springboks. And since October of last year, yes, we lost to Australia by a very small margin, so that we didn't get walloped or anything like that. So that's to our credit. Then we lost to Italy, and again, it's Australia and Italy's relatively first team. Then we had a friendly against Spain. This was away for us, and we won. And then we started we competed once again in the Rugby Africa Women's Cup, and we generally dominate that tournament. So we defeated Uganda quite well. Kenya have a solid team, so a 7 point margin is still solid. And then we defeated the Madagascar women's team. Moving on to July of this year, there was like a series of games quite recently. So yes, we lost the Canadian team quite handily in Pretoria, but again, it's the Canadian first team. And then we improved somewhat, maybe not in terms of how many points we scored, but how many points we conceded against the Canadian first team. Then people need to also understand that the Black Ferns 15 is the All Blacks, is the New Zealand women's second team. So none of these players have been selected for the World Cup. However, many of them are on standby, and should there be injuries, we would actually see a few of them play at the World Cup coming up. So we lost by a reasonable margin in the first game, and then we actually won the second game. Lisa B, you attended one of these games, correct? Or was it the first one or the second one?
The first one. Unfortunately, I couldn't go to the second one, so I missed out on celebrating the win. Um, but yeah, just also to put that Canada losses into perspective, recently Canada played America. Now, America is also one of the very good teams in the world. They have had a very bad year, and they've fallen down to, I think they're ranked 10th at the moment. but Canada beat them 42-10. So that puts our losses into context as well. And this weekend they played Ireland, and Ireland pushed them quite hard, and Canada still won 47-26. But that's also just for people to understand kind of the context and the fact that we are very much a team in the building phase. We're not quite there yet, but we're not far off. If we continue the investment into the Springbok women and into girls and the pathway to get into professional rugby, really, if we put an effort in, I see us getting to a tier one, let's call it, level in 4 or 5 years, maybe 8, but we're on our way.
Yeah, that's very encouraging. So the next games up are in the World Cup pool stage. The Women's World Cup is being played in England. I actually spoke to a professional ref the other day who will be refereeing the tournament. So the first game up is against Brazilian women, and we are favored to win that game. And then it's up against the Italy women, and we're not that far behind them in terms of ranking. And they've after that we versed a very formidable French women's team. So we're very much underdogs for that team. So in the context of playing 3 games within a group, the reason why pundits are saying we have a chance of making the playoffs is that we might be able to pull off a result in the first 2 games and maybe not lose by such a huge margin, and therefore go through alongside France in the group. And yeah, hoping that actually pans out. Do you concur with that assessment, Lisa B?
Look, Brazil are a very exciting team to watch, but they are smaller than us in terms of how many people play. They have a very good sevens team, or a very exciting sevens team, and the sevens team forms the backbone of their 15s. I love them very, very much, but I still think we have a good chance of getting one up on them. So I concur with that. Italy is going to be something different. We did push them last year in the WXV very closely. And some other stuff happened in that game that might have turned it around to our side. They have, however, improved. Italy have improved this year quite a lot. Their attack is very dangerous. And they might, it's going to come up once again to the front, to the pack, to the scrums and the set pieces. If we can push them there, we might stand a chance.
Awesome. I look forward to watching these games and then talking about them on the podcast. Then, Mikosi, you, like me, are not that clued up on women's rugby, and we're improving. We're not just watching highlights, we're watching games. A lot of the games are free on YouTube if anybody's watching. I encourage everybody to watch. They're very competitive. They're very sort of free-flowing. They're not bore-fest at all. Then, Mikosi, do you have any thoughts on the women's Springboks?
On my limited knowledge, I'm expecting us to win the Brazilian game. I expect that to win. Just like Lisa said, I know that they have a really good sevens team, so it's kind of like that Argentina where most of their players come from their sevens route. So you know that they are quite good and quite fast. So, but I still expect a win. The Italy game, I'm thinking if I had to call all 3 games, I'd say a win, a draw, and a loss to the French. So the draw would basically be Italy, because the last game that we played, we did kind of push them. And the last 3 games, like you guys were talking about, the Black Ferns and the Canada game, I kind of saw some sort of growth. It seems like we have a plan. Like Lisa said, we're just like a few years away from basically becoming a top tier 1 nation in the women's game. So that's why I feel like we might have a chance with Italy.
Great.
But the French one, I definitely think that's going to be that's going to be our toughest match.
I think we do the best we can there, and then all the heads up high. Definitely gonna get a good reception when they come back to South Africa, whether they make the playoffs or not. Lots of people are going to be waiting for them at the airport. Jean, final thought for you on this topic?
Yeah, I just quickly wanted to point something out, and it's going to trace back to the new coach that joined them. Um, so the new attack coach, and I can't for the life of me remember his name right now, but I do know that if we go back to the build up to the Springboks in 2019, we had a similar run of games beforehand with a lot of game time being scheduled. Swys de Bruin, that's him, Swys de Bruin. So he was the attack coach prior in 2018. And if we look at the 2018 Springbok season, 2019 Springbok season leading into the World Cup, and we look at what the women's fixtures have looked like over the past year, we've actually had a lot of very hard rugby going into this. So I think in terms of match conditioning, we will be one of the teams. I don't think necessarily the best team, but one of the teams going in with the most amount of game time, current game time in the bank, whereas a lot of other teams have been having camps separately and they've played a warm up here and a warm up there. As far as the team goes, I'm so amped that Nolasindiso Boy is fit, same as Lisa B. And yeah, just a shout out to her for being the first female Springbok to 50 caps. That is just an amazing, amazing thing. And then obviously excited for the likes of Lacha and Ruiz to be there. And I'm hoping Libby, Janse van Rensburg can be the Andre Pollard of the Springboks team and sort of be there to see out the tight matches. But yeah, I'm gonna disagree with Tim Nkosi and say that we're gonna push Italy. I feel 7 points on them when the whistle blows, just as revenge for Athlone.
Awesome. Yeah, I like the optimism. All right, guys. Looking forward to this tournament. Now we move on briefly to the SA under 18, used to be known as SA Schools team. They had a series of games, two games. Their first team and their second team played at War School Durbanville, which is quite close to me. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend in person. There were a few really exciting players I wanted to see play in person. Unfortunately, I just couldn't get to the stadium, so instead I just watched the Currie Cup game at 3 o'clock. But I did watch these games afterwards, and I must say, SuperSport does really well in terms of just schools rugby in South Africa, which is very popular, but also like the under 18 Springbok team, Grand Como, that type of thing. Yeah, so the SAA team, that's basically the second team of the under 18 team, unfortunately lost, but narrowly to Ireland, but in a very exciting game. Georgia, excitingly enough, at War School Tigerberg beat England, so that's a big result for Georgia. Their forwards look really good. And then South Africa versus France. South Africa mostly dominated the game, but France also had their moments. Players that stood out. Shout out to SASchoolsports.co.za. They do excellent work, excellent work. So they've got a bit of a breakdown here. I encourage you guys to go have a look. Players that stood out for me and that I really wanted to see in person, but unfortunately I couldn't, would obviously be barnstorming inside center, internet phenomenon, Ethan Adams, from the Free State, but signed with the Lions. So he'll be through to the Lions system in a season or two. I think they'll be smart in terms of developing him holistically and not rushing him too soon for such a young player, because sometimes these Oaks look big when they play against their peers at under 18, under 20 level, but we need to understand that they're not as big as we think they are, because they're just playing against people relatively their own size. Of course, Marcus Miller has been hyped as well, Western Province player, to the extent that John Dobson mentioned that he might play Currie Cup soon, that type of thing. So that's how much John Dobson and like the whole of South Africa is hyping Marcus Miller. He does look like a very good player. I believe this is Wandile Semelani's brother. That's former Lions, former Bulls, and now VP Stormers outside center. So if I had gone to a school, Durbanville, I might have got an opportunity to see Wandile Semelani in person. And then obviously Siaya from the Sharks, when he signed with the Sharks a few months ago, he's from KZN, but that doesn't mean he's definitely going to sign for the Sharks. I mean, Ethan Adams from Free State, but he signed for the Gauteng team. So Siaya, fullback, extremely exciting. And incredibly exciting to watch. Yeah, so keep note of these lists of players. Percentage-wise, it's the highest chance that you're going to see them run out at Test rugby or some sort of level of rugby. Maybe not all of them for South Africa, like the SA Sports rugby administrator said in an interview recently that we can't, just because of the sheer numbers, we can't prevent everybody from not playing for Italy and or etc. So yeah, exciting team. I would say to these young men, just because you made the SA under 18 team doesn't guarantee you success. You still have to work hard. I know, Thembinkosi, you watch these games quite closely. Any players stood out to you as well?
I think I'm gonna go with the player that we just got and signed. So I'm gonna go with Ethan Adams. He had a good game at center, but also the other center, Marcus Miller. Marcus Miller was really great in this game. I thought that they too, especially when it came to the carries, they did very well. Another player that I would like to point out is the scrum half. I felt like he controlled the game a little bit good. I didn't have any particular fault with him. I think he had a great game. The number 8, Cap, Cap also had a nice game. I liked it the way he always took charge, like a proper number 8, like always going in, running in, didn't stop him. So I was kind of, I was kind of like saying, what am I saying? I was kind of impressed by his game.
Okay, great. Jean, any thoughts on the Young Bucks?
Yeah, I only managed to catch the highlights. I agree with Tim Nkosi, Marcus Miller and Ethan Adams. Like if we're looking at future centers and if these guys can get the proper development and game time, I think that they're going to be outstanding. And then yeah, agreed on Kemp. At times he gave me like flashes of Dwayne Vermeulen vibes almost. Like, always ready to go in, either running a line or just securing the ball. But not having that back down attitude in him or waiting for the other team to make a step, always being first, always fronting up. But yeah, honestly, those are the standouts. I'm sure all of these guys are giving it their everything. Unfortunately, I just didn't get to watch the full matches.
Okay. Lisa B, you also reside in Western Cape, and I obviously couldn't attend because I had to work from home, even though I was hoping to go. In fact, shout out to Jan de Koning, the editor of Rugby 365. I shot him a message on Thursday evening asking him about the ticket system there. And yeah, he got back to me pretty soon and he said it was 20 rand at the gate and or you could buy tickets ahead of time and school kids could get in for free if they were just wearing their uniform, which is always the case, but I wanted to know ahead of time. So yeah, what was your excuse for not attending?
I had work. Friday mornings are work time for me, unfortunately. Um, but yeah, also enjoyed the highlights. And I must say, I quite enjoy close games. So I actually enjoyed the South Africa A game quite a lot, just also because Ireland shot through, in those last few minutes really, to secure the win. And Reinhard Viljoen, that number 15. Um, I think he got a hat trick, am I right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, I was really impressed with him. He's not very tall, but he just he really his attack was really fun to watch. And then also the number 11, Kepe, great little run down the sideline there for the first try.
Yeah, lots of Southwestern District players, which is encouraging. So that's the George area. And obviously, if they're really good, they probably will get pulled into the Western Province system because that's the same province. I also noticed that whenever there's a really good flanker coming out of KZN, his name is Ndlovu, and he obviously plays for the Sharks. So this is the fourth one. So maybe they're all related. Yeah, but I was also very impressed by Ndlovu. I hope. In fact, there's an Glover now that's signed with the Lions, but he came through the Shark system. All right, guys, that concludes our look into the future Springboks setup. We're gonna move swiftly now on to Currie Cup results. Because we missed out on round two, we're gonna swiftly go through these, not spend too much time on them. Cheetahs Pumas in at the Toyota Stadium in Bloemfontein. Myself and Jean, if you go back and watch episode 2 of Bit of an Animal, like and subscribe. We didn't give the Cheetahs much of a chance. We didn't think they were going to win because the Pumas look really good, and the Cheetahs went to Wellington in round 1 and lost to Boland. But the Cheetahs, to their credit, came back with a bit of a different attitude and changed up their team a little bit. They did bring Swanepoel in at Tiaan Swanepoel, who was briefly at the Sharks last season in the Currie Cup, former Lion as well. Andre Nel, who in the first game against Boland and Wellington didn't get off the bench at all, started this game and scored 4 tries, so maybe he should have started. Yeah, we're gonna go to Jean first on this one.
Yeah, I think the Cheetahs just came out with some clear intent in this one. And I think if you do to the Pumas what and we'll probably discuss this when we get to the next round's results, what they did to the Bulls, and you just starve them of that fresh front foot ball and being able to receive the ball of kickoff, you're putting them in a massive box because while they're good on defense, their attack is where they win the games. So if you starve the attack, you starve them of any platform. But yeah, definitely the Cheetahs came out with a lot of clear intent. And yeah, definitely number 9, he just put his stamp on the game as a what's it, Yandre, just putting his stamp on the game, having an absolute stormer, finding a lot of holes, sniping around the ruck. Really great game.
Awesome. In to the Pumas' credit, though, they did score a few tries. They were in the game for the most part. The Cheetahs sort of pulled away towards the end. I will say Danik Visagie managed the game well. Soon to be recently signed for the Sharks, Ross Brody. So I'm obviously biased. He played well. Two tries again from him. He's playing well even in losing efforts. Kwanda De Maza, I'm always a big fan of him. I literally watched him debut alongside Apelele Fassi. So yeah, I always have always biased towards him. And then the player that we highlighted as player to watch, Sango Amlashe, again scoring a try. So it wasn't a full-on trouncing by the Cheetahs, but well done to them for actually getting a result against a sort of more structured Pumas team. We'll go to Lisa B on this result. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I was with you guys. I did not think the Cheetahs would win the Pumas. Very, very impressed. There must be something in the air in Bloemfontein. And yeah, for me, standout player for the Cheetahs was Jan Reinel. Just yeah, you guys said it all, but really enjoyed him. It's interesting as well. I know we'll get to this weekend's games in a bit, but it's very interesting for me to see how they managed to break the structure of the Pumas, because for me, the Pumas really are such a balanced team. And well done for the Cheetahs for sticking in there and actually pushing them to that point. Yeah, great game. I really enjoyed it.
Excellent. Temikosi, thoughts on the cat fight?
I actually quite enjoyed it, especially coming back from the Cheetahs loss in Boland. I think that I think this is just going to be a thing where Boland beats Cheetahs, because it seems like it has to happen in the SA Cup. So I feel like that's going to be a thing. Seems like there's a lot of rivalry brewing there. But going back to this game, I feel like the Cheetahs actually won the territorial game. I think Pasafi did well to kick, but I think was it Swanepoel was the 15 and the 10. I'm not sure who what 10 was, but I feel like they won the kicking game, making sure that the Pumas were always under pressure and every mistake that they get now capitalized.
Awesome. So now we move swiftly on to Tembinkosi's Lions team, pulling out a mostly URC team against Western Province, Lisa B's team, who thought it a good idea to put out the under 23 plus some club rugby players and not many fringe, not many fringe URC players. So Temikosi, we always go with the guy whose team, most of the time we go with the guy whose team wins first. So what are your thoughts on your team absolutely nuking Western Province?
It was a great day. It was a great day. I think if it happens in the URC also like this, I would be happy. But no, they played quite well. They played quite well. And I think it's going to come to, I'm also going to say this when it comes to this week's games. I've noticed that from the under 20 to the Currie Cup, there's like a gap between those two. And you can kind of see the younger players seem like they have the physical intent, but they can't just enjoy it the whole match. And I think that kind of is the story of this game.
Yeah, a couple of good performances. WJ Steenkamp, he came over from the Bulls. He played quite well. Renzo Duplessis put in a shift. Darian Landsberg is like, he's just too good for this level. You can see when guys have been exposed to higher levels of rugby, it almost becomes too easy when you play at a certain level. They almost enjoy themselves. I see this a lot with Siya Kolisi. When you see Siya Kolisi play a regular season URC game against Zebre Palmer in for the Sharks in Durban, he's almost having too much fun out there. It's they're trying new things and stuff. So yeah, shout outs to Dobela. He's growing. He's now fully signed to the Lions. So the Lions have a really healthy list of fly-offs going into the URC season. They've got Dobela, they've got Kate Volater, they've got Gio Lombard who can play there and play at fullback. And they've just signed Chris Smith, who used to play for the Bulls, played one season in France, probably didn't like it, and is now coming back to play for, instead of the Bulls, play for the Lions. Jean, your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, sorry for the VPI. Look, I think someone that played a very big role in the Sharks was their hooker, starting hooker Visagie. And I think he's sort of a talismanic guy for the Lions. He I don't want to say leads from the front because he's not necessarily the guy doing everything, but he's got a very big and calming presence. But also at the same time, he's got intent and physicality about him. He's got that controlled aggression. Like he knows when to turn it on, when to go to 150, and when to keep it at 90. So I think he's as far as a URC Lions team and in this case the Currie Cup Lions team, I think that's the sort of player that makes the difference up front. And I think where Western Province suffered is if we take a look at their front row, for example, the guy with the most experience was Skaran Tubeni, legend of the game, but he's getting on in his years. So you've got a guy who's in his prime, who's very physical, who's running it as hard as possible, versus a guy who is a couple of years older, bit slower, comes from a different generation of rugby. So yeah, I think those things made the difference. Where I felt Western Province could have capitalized more is perhaps playing a better kicking game. I feel if you're gonna be at Ellis Park, use the altitude to your advantage. Instead, there was a lot of attacking from deep, which is very admirable. I know that's what the Cape is known for. But you've got the altitude to help you gain a extra 5-10 meters on a kick. So rather, try and pin the Lions back. Don't give them a platform. Um, but it's an interesting discussion, and I'm just going to derail for a moment on a thought. Yeah, I actually spoke to someone over the weekend, and the thought we had was we sort of thinking to ourselves that we're wondering if Western Province and the Sharks aren't approaching the Currie Cup this year in the same way to say we're going to put the youngsters in, we're going to give them the basics and let them experience it for the first year. So the intent might not be there to necessarily win or finish top three. The intent is there, get experience, get comfortable, know what the physicality is, know what it's like, because next year you're the starter and you're the backup for URC. So I wonder if this isn't a 2-year plan, but that's just a thought and a discussion I had over the weekend. And I thought maybe there's some merit to it, maybe not.
Yeah, Dobson and Neil Powell, Dobson for Western Province and then Neil Powell for the Sharks, as well as JP Peterson, the head coach of the Sharks Currie Cup, came out with similar sentiments. They were basically saying, we have a reality of financial restrictions. We can't spend that much. So both teams are somewhat top heavy with like senior Springboks, for example, in terms of Western Province, they've got Damien Willemse. They used to have Spicy Plum. What's his name that just retired? The ginger.
It's of
Kitsov. They used to have Kitsov. That guy's on a big contract. They've still got Frans Malherbe, that type of thing. So Dobson was basically saying last year in the Currie Cup we didn't do too well. We didn't make the playoffs because we were focusing on keeping our under 21 team in the under 21, not exposing them to the higher level of physicality, playing against worms from the Pumas and the Griquas, Boland, and so forth, because there's a physical difference. And then Paul was saying a similar thing of, look, we've got these players, we've let go of a raft of middle players. So there's your primary high level guys, and then you get more of like your squad players, and then you've got your upcoming youngsters. So in terms of the squad players, the Sharks willingly chose to let go of people like Mari Costa, people like Lapis Lapaskachny, one of the flanks, Ngeza, he left and he's now playing in England, that type of thing, so that they could balance the books, but also bring through sort of a system where the young players actually have a chance to play. So of the 8 teams in this tournament, 4 of them are URC franchises, and each franchise is going to approach it slightly different. Whereas the SA Cup teams, your Borlands, your Pumas, your Griquas, their focus is more win every game. This is our URC. So effectively, Stormers supporters and Shark supporters were obviously quite upset because of the first 2 results. But the balance of youth and experience is obviously not there. That having been said, the Sharks did lose their first 3 games of the Currie Cup last year and then go on to win the tournament despite playing sort of an away semi-final to the Bulls at Loftus and then away final to the Lions at Ellis Park. But we have to remember that last year was a 10-week, 10 fixture regular season. So Sharks effectively lost 3 games and then went unbeaten in the last 7 games. The reason why I say unbeaten instead of a winning streak is there was a draw in that. So, and the Sharks effectively started winning in round 4 because I looked back at the teams by slowly bleeding in more senior players, and the other teams were having issues as well. Like we'll look at later in the episode of the Bulls losing this week, effectively because they lost a lot of senior players due to flu. So there are a couple of players, before I shoot to Lisa B, a couple of players I'd like to highlight in terms of this game that despite the Western Province going to Gauteng and losing, would be obviously Skaran Tabeni is the captain, is doing quite well. I thought Skara was gonna retire. Zachary Porthen, former SA under 20 captain. So this is a super young guy playing prop. And we need to be sort of mindful of what we expect of these players. I will say Carl Steyn, in terms of depth of fly off, he looks very promising. Unfortunately, he got injured in this game. Assad Moss, another under 20 Springbok, highly rated. Damien Marcus, this affected the Western Province in this game because he, throughout this tournament, it has been hugely effective. Another, not just an under 20 player, but like an under 20 star. Sokoro Makata, wow, this ox, he's very physical. Yeah, so Damien Marcus, under 20 player, didn't really play much senior rugby. I think he played 1 or 2 games in the Currie Cup last season. Played 5 games in Japan this season. So he left Western Province and actually played in Japan, but there is no Japanese season right now. So his Japanese team that is not only did he play in Japan, he played in the highest level in Japan. So it shows that when you see him play and he's fit, it's clear that he's used to a higher level of rugby. One other player that I'd like to highlight would obviously be Ezekiel Ngobeni, another former under 20 scrum half, can play wing as well. Captains Marty's varsity cup team, very good player. Again, we want to be calm in terms of what we expect of him at such a young age. And then Gino Cooper, he came on in this game and he played really well. I am remiss after then Mikosi, instead of going to Jean, I should have gone to Lisa B because it was your team that lost. So we've been rambling on here, Lisa B. What are your thoughts on this game?
Um, I'm so happy Boland is back in the Premier Division because now I'm not solely
You
reliant
effectively
on
have two
VFF.
teams in this tournament.
Yeah, so I get it. Of course, all our franchise teams are using the Currie Cup as a development pathway for their younger players. I think this is a good thing. I think it keeps the Currie Cup interesting and fast paced. There's a lot to be said for having these younger players in the Currie Cup. But my question then becomes, what is the use of just throwing a bunch of young kids together without necessarily the guidance of some older guys? And as you also said, uh, that there's a few like Skara and Debeni, Stis Tole, um, that can guide them, but the rest of the team is young, and then we have all of these sevens players, which are fun and exciting, but you also have to ask yourself, can you know going from sevens to 15s and being able to play that whole 80 minutes and also play a kind of guidance role for the younger guys. I don't necessarily know if that's going to work out this year. And then bigger picture, the Stormers, we had a terrible injury period in the last URC. I am kind of worried about Frans Malherbe. I don't know if he's going to come back. And then of course Dion Fourie is also out. So just in terms of the forwards, if Frans Malherbe doesn't come back, we've lost Kitsov. The depth at the Stormers is a big worry for me, and I don't necessarily think it's being addressed in the Currie Cup. Just in terms of guiding younger players and getting them ready to take the step up.
Yeah, so sorry, Lisa, I just want to say
Yeah.
something interesting that in my tinfoil hat theory about throwing the youngsters. One thing that came into my mind was the fact that as of this season, our URC franchises are going to be receiving a lot more money, and we're not going to be responsible for the travel anymore. So I think financially speaking, in terms of squads, the Stormers and the Sharks might not be onto a bad idea to say, let's put the youngsters into the Currie Cup, right? Because the Currie Cup is great, but it's not a bread and butter. So we're sorting out who we want to keep and who we want to let go, because end of this year we've got another bunch of talent coming through, guys we need to sign. So, I'm sort of thinking to myself, are they taking a very long-term approach to squad building and saying that because finances will probably go up over the next couple of years, then we can get guys, and especially if they're pony players, because the moment a player is earmarked as a player of national interest, SARU contributes to their salary, which reduces the load on the club. It doesn't mean that the salary cap gets shifted. It simply means that the club has extra finances for guys playing in the Currie Cup, for guys playing in Premier Division and such. So, or for loan players. And then just on Frans Malherbe, I believe he confirmed on another podcast that he's not going to be playing this year. They're taking a very conservative approach because it's a lower back injury. He made a joke about having to do Pilates. So I'm hoping that we get a video of that at some point, because I think that would be incredibly entertaining. But please, Frans, don't find me and throw me off a rooftop. I'm actually a very big fan. So please don't throw me off a rooftop.
All right, Frans, be nice to Jean. Yeah, so that means because Frans Malherbe plays tight head prop, that means Netling for Share is going to step up. You guys both brought up some interesting points. I was always concerned about the Sharks' depth in certain positions, especially beginning of last season, where I thought we were thin in terms of fullback. But an idea that sort of has developed within the system of our new rugby landscape is the fact that you can go into a season, especially a URC EPCR season, being slightly understaffed in certain positions because you can still get players on loan. So the Sharks loaned a bunch of players this season. In fact, they even had Skaran Tobeni in as backup when we had a hooker injury crisis. We've also got Dejan Slobert from the Pumas, who had initially been on loan at the Bulls. And then what was also interesting is that you assume that the URC franchises are only going to loan players from non-URC franchises, so the other 10 unions within the South African landscape, maybe slightly better run unions such as the Pumas, etc. However, the Sharks were able to get the fullback from the Bulls, and he played a couple of games for us, 2 games. First game okay, second game then he tore his hamstring. So you can actually get players from other URC franchises, but they have to agree to let you go. A lot of URC teams also have sort of agreements and understandings with. I know the Sharks over the years had an understanding with Pumas, and now that's been renewed. The the Stormers have an understanding with Griquas. So that type of understanding is known as right of first refusal. So if a Griquas player gets tapped up by the Sharks, the Griquas then have to inform the Stormers and say, hey, the Sharks would like this player, but would you like him, or are you okay with him going to the Sharks? And then the Griquas get a bit of money if the player is loaned either to the Sharks and or the Stormers, because depending on when the player is loaned to a URC franchise, the Griquas might have needed that player for the SA Cup, but obviously URC takes precedent. So yeah, I also used to be quite concerned about depth, but sometimes these teams sort of like keep an eye on other players outside of their system and think, okay, I could always step up that player. All right. Then Minkosi, any last thoughts on this game?
I actually had a question for you guys.
Okay, great.
Especially now that you brought up the whole loan thing. I was asking myself the same question. It seems like the top 4 franchises get a lot of players, especially younger players. I was wondering, why isn't there a better system to get them? I don't know, to loan them out to, what is this, SA Cup, so they can at least have that experience, and maybe if they perform very well, you can bring them back for your Currie Cup squad. So I'm not sure why someone hasn't thought of that, or maybe done some sort of deal that allows that to happen.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. That is something that's been debated quite a bit on Reddit. There's no formal structure for that, but Saru really needs to look into that. So people bring this up quite often in terms of like to try and prevent a promising young player who maybe did or didn't play for the SA Under 20 team, because we have so many promising young players, only so many can play for the SA Under 20 team. You don't want that player to sort of wallow in obscurity as the 4th choice scrum half someplace, that type of thing. Yeah, so there's no direct solution to that, but I know Lisa B has an opinion on it as well, so I'll shoot to her.
Yeah, I've also wondered about this a lot. Also, in the context of the Western Cape, we have 3 unions. We have SVD, VP, and Boland. Boland is on the ups. SVD has their own troubles, but I would love to see the smaller unions having a pathway to play for the franchises. I know it's difficult, there's politics and there's finances and all of these things. But imagine if a player, a younger or a fringe player, could play for Boland in the Currie Cup and the SA Cup and still have a pathway to get to the Stormers. It would mean that Stormers VP wouldn't have to pay for them to play in the lower levels. And it would give give that star quality to the other unions in the Currie Cup and the SA Cup to see a Stormers player coming back to Boland and playing Currie Cup or SA Cup. I think, it can only be good, but of course there are a lot of obstacles to get over to get to a situation like that.
Okay, great question from Thembi Nkosi. I think we'll discuss this a little on a different podcast later in the season when we have a bit more time, because we have to swiftly move on. but we've got 2 rounds of games to quickly brush over. Next game, Jean's team. Speaking of sending out the youngsters, Jean's Bulls team had so much depth at the beginning of last season. I was like, what the heck? And then all these guys who didn't play much, and I've looked at the all rugby stats about how many URC EPCR games they've played. And on top of it, then the Bulls went and got Jandre Rudolph from the Cheetahs. So that seems unfair. Zach Berger played 13 games across the regular season, quote unquote. Jaco van der Walt, veteran. I thought he was way older. He's actually only 31. From the heyday of the Lions, winning, getting to 3 Super Rugby finals. Doing well. I'm super happy for Peter Chamberlain. I don't care what people say. A lot of current Shark supporters are like, they don't seem overly happy at his success. The fact that the Bulls can run out Apiwe Giante, Springbok. So how many Springboks did they have? Mervyn Ori came back from France. He played well, playing dominantly. I'm super impressed by Dylan Smith, another former Lion alumni, also from that period when they were doing really well. And on the Shark side, they just went out and played a 22-year-old, and then a 27-year-old. A bit disappointed in Corneral of late, expecting a bit better from Slabbert. The loose forward trio, I thought Tino would make more of an impact. Bit disappointed, but overall, we playing a second. Well, we're playing a B/C team plus under 23 players. Again, very young center pairing in this game. But Jean, how much fun did you have watching this game?
You know what? It was a lot of fun, and then I'm gonna side with Lisa B. I think the greatest rugby match I've ever watched, the top 3 would be the semi-final against Wales in 2019, where we won by 1 point. And
Mhm.
then the quarterfinals against France, taking first place, winning by 1 point. I love a tight match. I don't think my heart rate monitor does likes it, but I love a tight match. But yeah, look, I think what really suited the Bulls here is there's a couple of things that stood out. Zach Berger is clearly breaking the mold of a 9 at the Bulls. The Bulls used to have a tendency for their 9s to arrive at the ruck and then look at what he wants to do. Zach Berger has obviously picked up that this is a bit of a problem. If you look at some of the greatest 9s, if we look at Jameson, Gibson Park, Faf de Klerk, Aaron Smith, when these guys arrive at the ruck, they already know what they're going to do. They spend half a second scanning and 1 second making a pass. They don't stand there looking around. It's only if they're really not sure on whether to kick or play another phase that we see it going over 2 seconds. And I'm very glad that Zach Berger is breaking that mold, because if we look at Ambrose Papier, sometimes he arrives at the ruck and it's the perfect opportunity for fast ball. Just pop it to the next person and the next person and the next person, and he sort of stands there for 2 seconds, looking around. Where's the opportunity? Sometimes you're just punching. You're still working towards it. Absolutely pumped for Boeta Chamberlain getting to use that big boot of his to send it over. And then, yeah, Jandre Rudolph and Stravino Jacobs, who we marked as a player to watch in our first episode. Stravino Jacobs really, I thought he did a lot of off the ball work and being around the park and presenting himself well. And I'm glad to see Jantjie back. I think it's going to be a big climb for him after spending some time in the wilderness, copying a ban. But I really do hope he's on the straight and narrow now. He had some intense speed back in the day, and I'm hoping we can get that version of him back.
Yeah, in fairness to Apiwe, after the 4-year ban for testing positive for steroids, he did play 1 season at the Sharks, and I was quite sad to see him go. But he's another example of sort of a middle innings sort of not our best player, but very much a squad player that we unfortunately let go to sort of balance the books. I will also say,
Yeah.
well done to JJ Theron, another under 20 World Cup winner. He scored right at the end in the corner, and he bumped off 2 of his under 20 teammates. He basically just brushed off Everson and LB Bester like they weren't there. So good for him. Okay, we got a lot of games to go through, so we're gonna go through swiftly.
He just
The
doesn't want to
lo-
speak about this one.
Exactly. I just want to forget about it. Neil Powell. I'm gonna find you, bro. Griquas played their first game in Kimberley. Very great crowd. Sunday afternoon. This was last Sunday. We're recording this, by the way, on Sunday the 10th of August. Griquas, yeah, they lost. Get their first win. After losing to the Pumas in Mbombela. Bit of a back and forth, not exactly all their way. Again, Borland, Lisa B's team doing excellent, punching above their weight. Um, yeah, I'm gonna shoot this to Lisa B because she supports Borland. So even though they lost, she gets first dibs on this one.
Yeah, what a great game. Number one, it's my favorite matchup is Boerland and Griquas just because the playing style is so similar. That back line, if you can get it firing and just great running rugby. Unfortunately, from Boerland, defense was a bit optional. We didn't do so well on that score. Our scrums were terrible. Griqua basically pushed us off that sandpit that they like to call the pitch. And all credit to them. They really, really pulled it through at the end. For me, standout, of course, Donovan Don. Just fantastic. I mean, basically, if we can get the ball to Donovan Don, uh, and you're not going to go wrong. I've also been very impressed with Nyele at number 12. They're he's really great on the attack as well. Like I said, wasn't a great defensive game, and our scrum really, really was terrible. I've lost count of how many scrum penalties we got. But just as with the Cheetahs game the week before, our bench saved us a little bit, but it just wasn't enough. And Griquas, uh, like I said, they just bossed us around in the end, and all credit to them. Gershon Weir, loved him. Also this week that we'll talk about a little bit later on, but I've really enjoyed him on the sidelines, causing all sorts of chaos. Congratulations, Griquas. You deserve it.
Yeah, I think they did really well. I think they stepped up from last the week before. They actually played quite well against the Pumas. They just had their moments, and yeah, congrats to their captain Glamini. Over request lots of Gustavs in their team. Caleb Abrams, he got a yellow card the week before, but he atoned and played quite well. They're just a different opposition at home. Gershon Weir or Magic Weir. Another excellent. Yes, he got a yellow card last week, but that was a bit of a mistake. We all make mistakes, but yeah, we highlighted him as a player to watch. Suelen Daba, wow, former Western Province player. He's really good. We are discussing this on the Sharks Reddit. We're discussing what about backup players within in the team? If any URC franchise, South African franchise, or foreign franchise needs an inside center, give Zwillen Daba a call. You won't be disappointed. You can get it done. Connor Murray had a solid game. On this YouTube channel, the Global Gayline channel, there is a Irish podcast. It's called the Interpro Show. It's hosted by Kaylin Scully, Adam Latham, and on the panel is Adam Latham and Irish Ben. And if they do not interview Connor Mahoney, I will be very disappointed. So yeah, I'll shoot them a text in the WhatsApp group, and yeah, I'm gonna ask them to do that. Connor Off did okay when he came off the bench. Okay, thoughts on this? Uh, we're gonna move on.
I thought you said something I couldn't
Ah,
hear.
Temikosi, sorry, my mic's a bit hectic. Your thoughts on this game?
I think it was a good game. I think Sunday Currie Cup games are turning out to be like the eighth day. Seems like if you want to watch a very entertaining game, just wait for Sunday afternoon. Um, and funny enough, it seems like it all involves Boland. So I'm gonna say that Boland seems like they have Sunday nailed down. Seems like Sunday is their day.
Yeah, it's
And
weird.
Dylan Marsh
All three ball line games in the first three rounds have been Sunday afternoon. So I don't know if they made arrangements like that, but they have played well, even though they lost the middle game. So yeah, you're completely correct. All three Sunday afternoons, and it speaks to the fact that despite the fact that the prestige of the Currie Cup isn't what it used to be because it used to be the main tournament for South African teams, and then it got overtaken by Super Rugby, and now URC, EPCR tournaments, Champions Cup and Challenge Cup are the primary tournaments. Um, I still personally find Currie Cup to be extremely entertaining. Lisa B, you have some thoughts?
Yeah, just in terms of the Sunday games for Boerland, as I understand it, I might be wrong, but the teams actually were able to kind of say what they would prefer. And Boerland were, I think, initially not so happy with the Sunday slot because if you know the Boerland, the only thing bigger than rugby is Sunday church. Um, but they're rolling with it, and I think it's a great time slot. What are people doing 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon? Not a lot. So and then also at the stadium, they have a church service before the game, some food stalls for lunch, and people stay for the rugby. So it's really a whole day that they're um, kind of putting together, and it just speaks to, I think, Boerland and how eager they are to make Currie Cup work here and to include the whole community. So.
Yeah, the atmosphere seems quite good. And myself and you both I reside in the city of Cape Town. You're also in Western Province. So what do you say we go watch a Boerland game?
I really want to go watch the Bulls. I haven't been there yet, so
Yeah.
I need to make a plan.
Oh, is that on the list of fixtures that the Bulls are coming down here to Boerland?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Next week.
oh, that's fantastic. So yeah, we will discuss offline and hopefully we can make it happen. I have not gone to watch a Currie Cup game in person because I've had social commitments, but yeah. Now we move swiftly on to Griquas, who played Boland on the Sunday and had a short turnaround, and then came up against our friends from the Western Province under 20 team, who played a little better, but for the most part, Griquas were dominating. Yeah, let's look at the makeup of this game, especially in terms of the teams. I was able to watch this game live on television, so I'm pretty much thinking Griquas actually had a slightly better game than they did against Boland. This game, of course, also in Kimberley, where Griquas play. Not super well attended because it's a Friday game as opposed to a Sunday game. But yeah, let me focus on Griquas first, considering they actually won. Mpofu played the whole game, got champion of the match, well deserved. Whitehead controlled the game for the most part, no silly mistakes. Gershon Ware, not only a try, but also a try-saving tackle. Excellent. Check those highlights out on YouTube. Connor Mahoney, another solid game. Off the bench, Leon Lyons, solid game. Former Sharks prop, IG Prinsloo, solid game. Let me think. Backline players. Zijn Beste had a sort of opportunistic try. Isabi, captain, Dlamini, solid game. Didn't play the whole game, but you don't need your captain to play the whole game. Lisabi, your team lost in this game, and they put out the youngsters again with a smattering of senior players here and there. As you can see, Nell Lowe looks good at this level and Currie Cup level. Why? Because he's got a lot of URC caps. Uh, Rudy Matthey, basically the backup scrum fly off. You can see the difference between Rudy Matthey and Carl Smith. Carl Smith, very young, promising fly off. Rudy Matthey, another under 20 alumni, Bok under 20 alumni. You can see he's played a lot of URC games because he looked incredibly comfortable. Unfortunately, This game was tight at the beginning, and then Griquas pulled away. So what are your thoughts, Lisa B?
Yeah, no, it's same as last week, really. Like you said, Yuri Mattia, great to see him. You would have wanted him to, or the team to maybe rally around him a little bit more, because of his experience. And also, yeah, I'm sorry that we didn't really see Tristan Lake and Tristan Lates and Shilton van Wyk, get to do their sevens. Um, their sevens thing because yeah, the ball was just all it was all Griquas. So no notes really.
Okay, great. So Damien Marcus played the whole game. Still looked really good. So yeah, that is a talented player. Then we move on to, so this was this Friday, round three. This weekend. Then we move on to the Bulls hosting the Pumas, and the Bulls. This game I watched, and it was tight at the start. However, the Pumas scored, Bulls scored, and then the Pumas pulled away. And why did that happen? Because the Bulls had a relatively senior team in the first two rounds of the Currie Cup. However, when I saw their team sheet and they put their team sheet out quite late, I thought that, oh, maybe they were playing sort of the more senior guys or on the fringes of the URC team, and then for the first two rounds, and then they decided to play more youngsters than they did in the first two rounds in this game. But in fact, the Bulls squad has been ravaged by the flu, and therefore they had a relatively solid, maybe not as good starting team, but their bench was very vulnerable. Maybe just young. Let's just say young, except for Lizo Kopoka, who has test caps but is a shadow of his former self, unfortunately. The rest of the team is incredibly young, and except for Chris Smith as well. Chris Smith initially was on the team sheet to start, but then he came off the bench. I think that's because his flu symptoms didn't quite clear up. So the Bulls went with they still started with a very strong lock pairing. Thoron got a start. Instead of at lock, he played at blindside. Juniper Kamela, excellent player, formerly of Stormers. When Juniper Kamela and Naba left the Stormers, John Dobson said, we actually don't want them to leave, but our financial restrictions are that of we can't sort of keep everybody. Therefore, Namaknaba got a contract immediately for the Bulls because he's a fantastic player. And Juniper Kamela actually didn't get a contract from the Bulls. And instead of signing with a different union, he actually decided to take up a job as a coach, junior coach at the Bulls, probably with the idea that he would play Currie Cup. And that's actually what panned out. Jean-Andre Rudolph also had a solid game, but not as good as the previous week. So maybe he was also feeling the effects of the flu as well. Pumas, on the other hand, they're the team that won. So let me give them a shout out. Uh, Ross Brody, excellent game again. I think he got man of the match again. Danrik Fasaki, solid performance. Any other standouts? Oh, Fleis Engelbrecht, excellent game for him again. Off the bench, there were some guys who looked quite good. Yeah, for sure, Thinnison had a solid game. Yeah, well done to the Pumas. They are a more senior team. They used this opportunity. Um, Chamberlain struggled somewhat. Bam scored a good try. Both starting Bulls young wings had actually quite good games, and they actually kicked from hand into the corner quite well. So, Jean, this is your team. I only wish that you had had the flu the week before. Thoughts?
Yeah, look, I think one thing we have to bear in mind when we're talking about recovery from disease, these guys are perhaps the fittest athletes, and especially young guys, they're as fit as can be and as strong as can be. That absolutely does not matter to something like a virus. I've spent some time in the pathology industry, so a virus just doesn't care. Yeah, I think where the Bulls really felt it was in the intensity, not being able to keep that intensity up. And what we saw here is what I alluded to earlier, where if you don't get that front foot ball, if you are not receiving kickoffs, if you don't get to start play on your own terms, you really do suffer. And for the most part, the Pumas they were choking the Bulls out. If you don't have the ball, you don't get to play rugby. So you are retreating backwards, you are making tackle after tackle. And unfortunately, the Bulls thrive when they are marching one way. Um, Viapia, Cheetahs, most of the other teams are a bit better on the counterattack, whereas the Bulls struggle on counterattack. That's an area that we actually, I would say, we need to look at. We struggle when the pressure's on up front. But absolutely, I'm giving it to the Pumas for playing a hell of a game. They really fronted up. Whether or not they knew about the flu, it wouldn't have been easy putting the Bulls in a box and keeping the lid on them. And keeping them to 7 points. You've got Buta Chamberlain on 15. He can put a drop goal over from the halfway line. So, just being ferocious in defense. Um, and then, you have to take every opportunity you get, using your forwards, using your backs extremely well. And I actually watched the majority of this game, and something that impressed me a lot was the way the Pumas stay connected in defense, especially in the 22. So there's, one guy goes low, one guy goes high, and that really counters the physicality of the Bulls. But they don't not all of them complete the tackle. So the guy going low will complete the tackle. The guy going high, as soon as that player drops, he breaks his bind and steps back and just remains in the line. So their line was just incredibly good on defense. Will they be able to replicate this effort next week? Is another question. But fantastic game for the Pumas. They absolutely deserve the win. And it's understandable from the Bulls. But on the other hand, it is also sort of sad. But we want to take the health and welfare of our players into account. So, taking into consideration, they probably couldn't train to as high a standard, and being on the recovery from the flu is not always smooth sailing.
Exactly, we're all human. Shout out to Sango Kamlasha. He had another really good game at number 13. And yeah, I thought maybe the Lions and the Bulls might go the 7 week, 7 game and 7 week regular season. One of them might go unbeaten. The only game I thought one of them might lose is to one another. But I really enjoy the fact that there seems to be parity over over these three rounds of Currie Cup. Yeah, so we move swiftly on to the Sharks and the Cheetahs playing at Sugar Ray Hulu Stadium in Claremont, Durban. Wikipedia says the capacity of the stadium is 6,500. I doubt that from what I've seen, but I'll have to look into it a bit closer. So unfortunately, the Sharks lost again. Cheetahs didn't look great. It was, if you're a Sharks fan and Cheetahs fan, you would have enjoyed this. I don't know if it's the best game for the neutral. Overall, Sharks put out a slightly more senior team and they control the game a little better. Again, the front row forwards, I was saying this when we did the Currie Cup preview game before there were any games played, that if you're going out with such a young front row forwards, you're going to get chewed up. And then on top of it, the Sharks started with another bunch of front row forwards on the bench. So this guy's 20, this guy's 20, and this guy played for Van der Heever played for Stellenbosch in 2017, and we can't find any data on exactly how old he is. So that's one senior front row forward on the bench, and then starting Lee Marvin Mazibuko for Mastoma. Recently returned from France after one season in France. He's 27, a 20-year-old and a 20-year-old. So there's a lot of potential in the Sharks team, but again, somewhat disappointed in Cornell. I rate this kid. He is 23 years old. He is huge, but again, ill discipline and technical issue. Matt Romano looked pretty solid. Nick Hatton, okay game. Tino, okay game, better than last week. Bradley Davids is growing as a player, still quite young. We shouldn't expect too much from him, but yeah, he really broke through last Currie Cup and he's a different person now. So it's nice to see some positive development. Under 20 superstar Moyo had a solid game. Look, you can only do the best you can with the conditions. So he didn't have necessarily a bad game, definitely didn't have a bad game, but didn't have a great game either. But he had some very good moments. The thing is that this is a young guy, not really in a team that's moving forward, more making the best of a bad situation. The Sharks did go with João Penke, senior player, had a solid game. Cops a lot of flack for maybe not playing too well at the URC level, but we need more guys like this in the Currie Cup system. Your Currie Cup team, if you're going to really actually try and win it, needs to be 2/3 senior guys, 1/3 junior guys. But if your team composition isn't to that extent, then we understand. Uh, Potgieter out the whole season, hasn't played for the Sharks in almost, just more than a year now. Usually on the wing, but can play inside center. We obviously recruited him from the Bulls, also former under 20 star, or just player. Nice to see him. He had a solid game in inside center. Been waiting for Diego Paulus to play. Haven't seen he played one EPCR game. Shout out to Sobatle, who got player of the match just in a losing effort in this game. We recently brought him back from the Pumas. He was at the Shark system and he went to the Pumas for 2-3 years. And yeah, shout out to him. Excellent player. Jaco Williams actually played quite well from fullback, even better than wing. Losing effort, but let me again, extremely young bench from the Sharks. Last thing I'll say is Coetzee Leroux, big guy, explosive, made a great impact over the bench. Awesome mullet. Willem van der Heever, also awesome mullet. And if you watch the rap podcast where the URC Rewind used to be on, and if you watch the URC Rewind on Global Gain Lines, like and subscribe, you'll understand why we always highlight players with mullets. All right. So because this was my team, the Sharks, losing in Durban to the Cheetahs, and we do not have any Cheetahs supporters on the panel, I will go to who should I go to? Lisa B, do you have any thoughts on the Cheetahs?
In all honesty, I did not watch this game, and looking at the score, I'm not sorry that I didn't watch the game. As you said, I don't think I would have enjoyed it. So sorry, can't help you.
Nkosi, any thoughts on my team losing a third time? I'd like to say the horrors persist, but so do I.
I think they showed better fight than the last two games. They definitely were up for it. They just couldn't get over the line. I think they played much better. I liked Mabasere and Pentler. For some other reason, it seems like every time one of the younger guys made mistakes, they were the one that kind of went to them and kind of like, you don't worry, you made a mistake, let's move on. I thought that kind of helped them. Another thing, Vusu Moya, he looks very confident for someone that just came in. Like he's very, very confident. It seems like he is not bothered at all by being the Sharks number 10. And I actually have a question for you. Between Kunene and Williams, which one would you put on 15?
Williams had a really good game, but I do rate Kunene. Kunene was in the stands. So I don't know if he was injured or not. Kunene broke through last season. He got given two opportunities in the Challenge Cup and didn't necessarily play too well, but still very young player, so I'm not writing him off. If I had to choose, I'd say Kunene, despite the fact that Williams played really well in this game in these conditions. So yeah, a big fan of Hakeem Kunene, but it's nice to also have. I think maybe at the Shark system we have too many young players pushing through, and then on top of it, we let go of like a lot of senior front row forwards, such as Dan Jooste, such as Kieran van Vuren, that type of thing. So that leaves you vulnerable when you play against Ooms and grizzled veterans who played 10, 11 games in the SA Cup. Had some sort of friendly games and that type of thing. So teams such as good non-union, non-franchise teams such as Pumas, Griquas, Boland will expose you. And so we'll move swiftly on to the next fixture, the final fixture of this past weekend. And again, I watched this game on television, and it was amazing. Yes, it's a narrow scoreline, but it was much closer than you would expect. Lisa B, this is your team. Give us your thoughts.
I'm going to redub Boerland to the Cavaliers of Chaos. Um, I This was a chaotic game, even more so than last week's. But it's like Boerland, it's like they're hanging on by their fingers, and then all of a sudden the magic just happens out of nowhere. It makes for such an exciting game. Also playing against the Lions with the running style of rugby, thoroughly enjoyed it. As you said, great game. For the Lions, very interesting to see how many of their players are actually from the Western Cape. Jaco Visagie grew up in Paarl, if I have it right. He's a great captain, as Jean was talking about earlier, and I think he really has that kind of grounding presence, as he said, for Lions, and also kind of sad, but also happy for Angelo Davids that he's getting play time. He deserves it, and if the Lions are going to treat him well, then I'm happy. Also, Kate Volander, just the impact he had on that game. Sorry for his yellow card. Or was it him? No,
Nico
sorry,
Steyn,
Nico
yeah,
Steyn. Sorry, confusing the two, yeah. Yeah, but Kate Volland into everything. Then for Boerland, sorry that Sibusiso Sangweni got injured last week against the Griquas. He broke his leg actually. So we're back to Thurlow Marsh at number 8, but I know, or I suspect he's kind of trying to maybe widen down his rugby career, which is why he's not captain this year. But he's also like that grounding presence for Boerland. So if he's on the field, we stack up much better. Our scrums greatly improved from last week's. The lineouts in this game was something crazy. I don't know. I'd love to hear maybe Jean or somebody who has more kind of technical insight. It felt like the Lions were trying to throw to Boerland, and Boerland were trying to throw to the Lions. It was a mess. So definitely lots of from both teams, lots of mistakes, not very clean. But I also that's kind of where Boerland is thriving, making it as messy as possible and kind of just frustrating the team into giving up their position. And if we are talking mullets, shout out to Lawrence Victor coming off the bench and also having a really nice impact. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should highlight because Boland won this game, and because the Lions are a URC franchise, I think we should highlight the fact that Boland actually won this game. It wasn't Lions losing it per se, although Lions had issues in terms of their execution. It rained a lot on Saturday. So, and then it was basically a storm on Saturday, and then Sunday was a lot more calmer, so no rain, but low temperatures, and that sort of tore up the pitch a lot. So that affected the scrums, but it also affected the Lions' ability to play their game of really throwing the ball around. But shout out to Sydney Tobias, who came off in the second half, but got player of the match. Lou Schroeder, he recently played for Bath, obviously former VP with Stormers and Shark. So he recently came off a season for Bath where they won the Challenge Cup final, they won the Gallagher Premiership, and they won the Premiership Cup. So good for him. And what's interesting is that Louis Schroeder, last season, I'm watching him play for Bath. He's basically just there to play the lesser games and or major games, the last 10 minutes to control the games. Very similar to how the Sharks used Cam Wright last season. But Louis Schroeder, it shows that he's used to a very high level of rugby because he looked really in control in this game. He did make one mistake with the ball turnover, but we're all human. Yes, Borland inside center, excellent work. Borland and Western Province have a lot of sevens players in their mix. Why? Because if the sevens players aren't playing sevens or they're just in the fringes of the team, they can sign a dual contract to play for those two teams. Of course, Angelo Davids is also a seven star, but he's shifted um, mostly to playing 15s. Played quite well for Stormers, but has chosen to rather go to the Lions, probably to get more game time. And even the players on the bench, yes, I concur in terms of the lineups. The lineups were really crazy, but like going into this game, if you were watching, reading up even on Rugby 365, shout out Jan de Koning, they were picking the Lions by 14. So shout outs to Boland for winning when they were underdogs. James Tedder had a solid game. I'd shout him out. Also, Angela Davids played the whole game, former Lion. So he spent 7 years with the Lions. So Ashland Davids, excuse me. So good for him. Dejan van der Westhuizen, I remember him playing for the Bulls and Southern Kings in Super Rugby. So yeah, good victory.
So just to jump on to Lisa's question about the lineouts.
Mhm.
So the rule of thumb that I've picked up is the hooker is only responsible for if the ball goes skew
Mhm.
or if the ball goes way too high.
Mm.
Normally, if the lineout is a mess, then it's the trigger puller. So that would be your number 4, your number 5 lock. In South African setups, we typically use the 5 as a lineout guy and the 4 as the enforcer. Other countries sometimes do it the other way around. But yeah, so your lock in the line out would be your trigger puller. So he would be the guy giving the timing, and the hooker sort of bases his throw on the phase of are they jumping, are they not jumping? Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the ball to its apex or the catch point right when he reaches it. So there's as little time as possible for the opposition to line up to where you're jumping and reach the height where you're jumping. So the yeah, that's just the rule of thumb I use. There's probably some guys that would be able to give you a much better technical breakdown. But from what I've picked up, and I'll give you a simple example. When when we lost our number 5 in the second game against Italy. Um, and what's his name now? But when he went off, um, the shift in the line out was quite apparent. I know he plays for the Stormers, but I just really can't remember his name now. But yeah, so the shift was really apparent because suddenly the line out wasn't as dominant as it used to be. So yeah, just from a technical standpoint, if the ball is not being caught or it's not going where it's supposed to, it's on the jumper side is the error. The only real error that the hooker can make is either he's not compensating for the wind or he's not throwing straight. Everything else is sort of the jumper's prerogative because for the hooker it's I have a set trigger. Let's say you jump once and then when your feet land, I'm gonna throw again. And that's my cue. I throw regardless of what else is happening. So if you then are half a second too slow, half a second too fast, that's sort of you're messing up, but the hooker looks bad because the ball is not being caught. So
Yeah, that does tend to happen because the Lions have Roots, but they also got Shoplom, which they recently signed from Griquas. Very, very promising player. And they Sasaki, just a moment on Jakub Sasaki. At the end of the game, he did say he is from the Boland. You correctly, Zabi, he's actually from Paul. So he's from that region. He was actually smiling at the end of the game, despite the fact that they lost. For Saki, if you look at his Wikipedia, he's been everywhere. He's been to multiple European teams. I remember him playing for the Bulls, so extremely experienced guy, great guy to have in the system. Also very good. He's not just a good Currie Cup player; he's a very good URC player for the Lions. So you're completely correct in that respect. And even though the Lions lost, I do need to shout out some of their players. I still need to find out if Luca Ribbons is related to Dave Ribbons, South African who played for England. Renzo du Plessis, highly rated player. He is a good player. Unfortunately, he didn't have the best impact off the bench, but we're all human. Bronson Mills got a couple of games in the URC EPCR season. Very young, inside center, not the biggest guy, but you don't need to be the biggest guy so long as you can front up. It affected a good turnover, so good for him. Two former Sharks in the Lions setup. Franco Marais, met him once at the Shark Supporters Club. Very pleasant guy. Jean Skuman, older brother of the Scottish prop Piers Skuman. Again, WJ Steenkamp, solid player, came over from the Bulls. Koma, very physical guy, had a solid game despite losing. The Lions were pretty much in it. Also, what we need to touch on before we move on from this is that the Boland had the game won, and they continued to attack even though there was a risk of them turning the ball over because they were fighting for the bonus point win so they can get a full 4-try bonus point, five points from this game. And that shows incredible attitude from Boland. So I am incredibly impressed with Boland. Effectively, I read up about them this week. They're on the track to being the Stellenbosch rugby team because they've got very strong roots with Stellenbosch. I'm going to shoot to Thembi Nkosi here for final thoughts on this game.
I actually quite enjoyed this game. Very impressed by Boland, especially Tobias. I think that man was just running lines and offloading, and I was like, what? I think he played a really good game. From a Lions perspective, I think it's the same thing that kind of happened with the Bulls. They kind of never got over the game line. They never got the front football that they wanted. And shout out to actually Boland because the scramble defense was quite good. They won a lot of turnovers because on the Lions balls. So I think that's one of the reasons that the Lions were never able to actually play how they wanted to play. And when Nico Steyn got that yellow card, I was like, okay. And K Bolicha was the one playing the 9. Something was wrong there. Like the connection from the Lions side was not as solid. But when Nico came back, I think everything went well, and especially Lombard was good in this game. A person that I also want to highlight that didn't do much, but he had a few breaks is the wing. Is it Beku? Like Haley Beku. I think he had a decent game, especially since we just lost Van der Merwe, so it's kind of wondering who is gonna be. Is it gonna be who's this? Is it gonna be Creel and Anto Davis? Who's gonna be the other wing? I think he put up his hand. Not a good game, but not that bad, especially because they were under pressure. I felt like Boland kind of took them on the game line. Every time the Lions tried to do something, they were kept pushing back, and that led to turnovers. If it wasn't turnovers, it led to penalties. And I think that's where they lost the game. But not to take it away from Boland, they were absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think you raise a good point there. Kelly Peku has been in the Lions system for a while, and in a losing effort, he actually stood out. Nico Steyn as a player I rate. How old is he, by the way? He gets a lot of
21.
criticism in our comment section with Lions supporters saying he's shit, but I think he's pretty good. And the Sharks were looking to bring in Nico Steyn's only 23. Guys, calm down. Um, Writing players off at that age annoys me to no end. I've seen him have good games. Did he have a poor game this afternoon? Absolutely he did, but we move on. You're completely right. When Steyn went off, Volata was sort of subbing in, and instead of them bringing a scrum half on, Volata was the one throwing the ball getting the ball at the rucks and stuff instead of one of the wings, and it did absolutely disrupt their system. All right, guys, we have to move on swiftly. So those are all the games we needed to cover. We'll look at the log for a moment. Thembi Nkosi, any thoughts on the log?
I'm kind of happy with how it played out, especially because now the four franchises, like the four big unions, kind of lost the match. It's like everyone kind of lost the match now. So we get the vibe that anyone can beat anyone on their day. So it's still open to who anyone can win this Currie Cup. So
Did
I
I,
kind of like that vibe. And that's the one thing I like about it.
yeah, did I hear you say anybody can beat the Sharks and Western Province? Yeah, that sounds right. All right.
I think I'm waiting for the biggest loser match between the Sharks and Western Province. Let's see how
Yeah, we're
they go.
just gonna have Neil Powell and John Dobson also arm wrestle at that game. All right. Let me give my thoughts on the log. So Pumas are first. Cheetahs after losing the first game were completely written off. I apologize, Cheetahs. Ball Cavaliers. My word, are you guys good? Bulls still my favorites to win the whole thing. Yes, they lost the game, but their team was ravaged by the flu. I still predict the Lions and Bulls final. Yes, they lost the game, but they probably learned from it. Griquas, to their credit, are a good team, and they're still in the running to possibly before. So this is basically a six-team race to get to the top four, and anything can happen in the playoffs. Lisa B, your thoughts on the log after 3 rounds?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting to see exactly this, the top three teams being non-franchise teams. And I'm just in terms of the Currie Cup that has struggled for viewership and interest, I feel like this year there's been a bit of a shift. I don't know if I'm alone in that. But maybe the shortened format and last year they had conferences and things or different pools. Nobody likes that. We want to see the head-to-heads, even if it's just 8 games. I think this is you know people enjoy that kind of thing. It's easy to follow. I'm with you. I'm still with the Bulls taking it. Although I have to say once again, Puma's just so balanced and the fact that even with the Bulls, like we said, with their illness, I just felt that they really are still in it with a shout. So for me, it's between Bulls, Lions, and Pumas to win. I love seeing the Cavaliers up there. I don't know how long we're going to stay there, but I'm here for it all. I'm just going to enjoy this week.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have two teams in the tournament because when one's bad, you have another one to cheer for. Although to be fair, I support the Sharks. I did live in my formative years when I was quite young in Mpumalanga, and I believe Jean also mentioned in previous episodes that he grew up there as well. So technically, the Pumas are mine and Jean's second team. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Jean, your thoughts on the log?
Yeah, one I think as a feeder competition for young guys getting experience and as the premier community rugby cup for South Africa, I think it's absolutely fantastic that the first three places are not belonging to the franchises. And I think it's also a very important lesson for the franchises here to say, don't expect your under 21 superstars, your under 23 superstars, and those guys to just waltz in here and run riot. Because if we look at it from a standpoint for the franchises, the Currie Cup is a competition that we play in, and it's nice to win, but we've got 2 to 3 other competitions that we have to win, which is the URC, the Champion, and the Challenge Cup, and those things. If we look at the Pumas, the Cheetahs, the Cavaliers, the Griquas, these are guys for whom the Currie Cup this is it. This is the World Cup. This is Armageddon. And this is do or die. So I think in that case, you have to, when you step onto that field and you lining up against the Pumas, you're lining up against the Griquas and Cavaliers, you have to realize that for them, this isn't a feeder competition. This isn't about anything. This is, if I win, yeah, I'm going home. The whole town is welcoming me. For the next 3 days, if I go to the bar, I'm not paying for nothing. And it's that kind of community feel, and that goes a long way in terms of setting mentality. So I absolutely love it. I do think that the top six teams right now are not on equal footing, but it's a very extended Mexican standoff about what happens. And I'll say this, by the end of round five, I think we're going to have our four teams who are taking the lead and two teams who have a shot.
Excellent. All right, so we move swiftly on to just doing a quick review, just who you think is going to win in the next round 4. So, Temikosi, Griquas or Sharks, Friday afternoon, who you got?
I'm gonna go with the request.
Okay. Jean, Griquas Sharks?
Request.
Okay, Lisa B?
Griquas!
Yay, Griquas! I'm also going Griquas. All right, Cheetahs, Western Province, Saturday afternoon, a 2 o'clock kickoff. Don't miss that. So you got to start the braai early. Cheetahs in Toyota Stadium, Free State. Jean, Cheetahs, Western Province.
Western Province to make a comeback.
Yay. Temikosi
I'm going with the home team, Cheetahs.
and Lisa B.
Yeah, no, sorry. VP is not winning in Bloemfontein.
Yeah, especially if they send the kindergarten again. Anyway. Pumas, Golden Lions, 2 o'clock kickoff, Nelspruit, same time. Why are they doing the same time? Oh, it's because of the Springbok game.
Yeah.
Okay, so these games are kicking off at the same time. Teminkosi, Pumas, the cat fight, Pumas, Lions. Who you got?
My heart says Lions, but I'm gonna go with the Pumas.
You're a smart man. Jean, who you got?
Yo, I think Tim Nkosi called it there. The heart says Lions, but the brain says Pumas.
Excellent. Lisa B.
I don't know. I'm not so sure, guys. Even though I've been singing Puma's praises, Lions will want to get back into it next week. I know they're in Nelspruit, in the beautiful Mbombela Stadium. I'm gonna say Lions edging it, just to be different.
Nice, nice. Just remember if you do any bets on Lisa B's predictions, she's not responsible. All right. And then the Sunday ends again with a Boland Cavaliers game in Boland. It's Boland versus Bulls. Maybe you'll get some content of me and Lisa B being there. I can't promise anything. Again, Tembin Kosi, you got a spirited Boland Cavaliers or a Bulls team full of really, really good players?
To make the competition interesting, I would like the Cavalier to win, but I feel like the Bulls will learn their lesson from last week. I mean, from this week.
Yeah, it really depends on who the Bulls actually put out. If they get all those senior oaks back, I mean, it takes you longer than 2 weeks to recover from flu, so we'll see what happens. Jean, who you got?
I'm gonna go with the Bulls. I'm gonna back my team.
Yeah.
However, if that team sheet comes out and it's looking like a high school yearbook, I will be missing the next episode.
Yeah. If the forwards on the bench have pimples, you're in trouble. Lisa B, your team versus the Bulls.
I am backing the Cavaliers, but I know, like you said, it's going to depend which team is coming, right? If the starters are fit and well, we're going to have a trouble with the scrum and the forwards. You know, it's not been our strong point even in today's game. But I'm backing Cavaliers all the way. Don't bet on my predictions,
Hey.
please.
I actually have a funny story about betting. Um,
Yeah.
a friend of mine went fishing with his father-in-law um,
Okay.
around during the 2015 Rugby World Cup, and he was like, for shits and giggles, he's going to put 150 rand on Japan to beat the Springboks. And his father-in-law was like, "What's wrong with you? You could have bought a bottle of brandy with that money. Why? Why?" And then, they're at the dam, they're not watching the game, and the next morning they drive into town, and he doesn't go to the shop or anything where he placed the bet because he's expecting the Bulls to have won, and they stop for breakfast, after the Boks to have won, stop for breakfast, and they see like the highlight reel, and he's like, "What the hell? So he ended up winning a decent chunk of money. And he gave his father-in-law the bottle of brandy, and he said, "Here's your bottle of brandy for $150. I'll take the rest, thank you." But it was a complete joke. He put the 150 on Japan as a joke, and then he ended up winning.
Yeah. So punters out there, yeah. Personally, I wouldn't sports bet because statistically, it's unlikely to win. But yeah, give it a go. All right, guys. Excellent first episode. Excellent first episode with a full panel. From myself, them being Kursie, Lisa B, and Jean. Until next time, goodbye.
Thank you for listening to A Bit of an Animal. Please like, rate, and subscribe wherever you see us, and join us again next week for more of the same. Until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.